you for joining me today for Kept Woman Conversations. Stay tuned for my conversation with Dr. Alexandria Rosa regarding my book, Kept Woman. You're in for a treat.
Hi, I'm Dr. Alexandria Rosa, a functional medicine practitioner and professor. I'm the owner of Vida Hydration Therapy, an upscale mobile IV hydration experience and boutique telemedicine practice here in Ohio. I'm an expert in all things intermittent fasting, hormone optimization, blood sugar, and biohacking. And I bring to my clients over 2 decades of healthcare experience, along with my own personal lived experience of transforming my life, of saving my life through biohacking and functional medicine. You can find me across all platforms on all the social media channels. I would love for you to friend me, send me a message, say hello, and have a wonderful day. Hi, Robin.
Hi, how are you? Good to see you again.
Hey, I'm doing well.
Great. Thanks for taking the time to join me today. I'm so excited to speak with you.
Absolutely. I loved your book. I'm so excited to talk about this with you today.
Oh, great, 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 great. So we're going to dive right in here, and I just want to, ask you some questions, and you'll tell me your thoughts on how the book resonated with you. Okay?
Sure, that'd be great.
All right. So when you were reading the book, what part of the book that really grabbed you and you said, that's me, or I can relate to that?
I think the part with just the overall theme throughout the whole book of you never giving up, like always
Oh.
figuring out something. Yeah, and I so related with that because I was reflecting on so many parts of my life and
Mhm.
comments that people have given me over time, or things that my coach even says to me all the time. I always find a way to make things happen no matter what is going on. I've always figured it
Mhm.
out. And that was the common thing that I kept thinking, like, oh, this happened to her. Oh, but this is how she did it. Like, was the next
Yeah.
thing that she did. And you never really knew what you were going to do, but you always took action. And I think that's what really resonated with me the most throughout the whole book was like, this girl, she does stuff, and maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't, but you make the best out of it and it just leads to the next thing. So I really, really resonated with that.
Yeah, I don't wear things on my sleeve. and people mistake that for, oh, she doesn't have anything going on. Oh, nothing's wrong with her.
Yeah.
So, in particular, when you say my resilience, did anything particularly happen to you that you would like to share that happened that's similar, or in a similar situation where you showed your resilience?
Yeah, I will have to say that getting my doctorate, actually, because I started my doctorate program right before COVID started. And
Mhm.
it was truly a test of, can I do this? Because when I started my program, there was
Yeah.
about, I think, 12 of us in our cohort. And by the time we
Mhm.
graduated, there was only 3 of us that walked across that stage.
I can relate to
And
that. Yeah.
yes, and there was actually only 2 of us um, that were in that original cohort, and then there was another person from another one that ended up graduating with us. So
Mhm.
that was a big sign to me that I had done something that not a lot of other people could do, that could stick with. And I had
Mhm.
so many, COVID in itself was stressful, but then also,
Mhm.
being sick, I was still working in the hospitals, in the ICU, seeing death and dying every single day I
So that had
went.
to be
But
hard.
then, right? But then still having to be a mom to my 3 kids, still having to be a
Mhm.
wife, still having to be a
Mhm.
sister, still having to be a daughter, like still functioning. It was
Mhm.
so much. And I think that was really something that I had so many times where I could have quit, stopped, took a break, changed
Mhm.
directions altogether, but I didn't. And
Mhm.
everybody would have understood, right? The
Yeah,
average
most
person
people
would have
would have given
understood.
up. Yeah.
The average person would be like, oh, I totally understand,
Yeah.
girl. You had to. break and this, but for me, that wouldn't have settled right with me if
Mm.
I would have done
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So just that whole process, it was a 4-year process, and
Okay.
I did it.
Did you, when you went through that process, did you have support in that? And what I mean by
Mm,
support, you seem like one of those people like myself, like you pour into everyone else. You help
mhm.
this with everybody in the family, your kids, your husband. Who helped you through that?
Yeah. You know what? And that was another thing that I related to in your story was just your heart and how giving you were to people that
Mhm.
would come across your way. I'm very
Mhm.
much the same way. And even by my profession, very much
Yeah.
giving all the time to others.
Mhm.
And I was actually very lucky when it comes to the support department. Maybe lucky is not the right word, but I've always
Mhm.
had actually a lot of support in everything that I've done. But there was one moment that really does stick out to me where I felt very unsupported.
Uh-huh.
And it was actually when I got my diploma in the mail, when I got my doctorate diploma
Mhm.
in the mail. My husband was sitting in the living room when I got the mail and brought the letter in. And I was like, oh, this is my diploma. I bet you this is it, right? And I'm all
Okay.
excited opening it, and I took it out,
Mhm.
and nothing. No
Well, you know how
cheers,
they
no
are.
hug. Girl,
Yeah.
I was like, "Are you for
Mhm.
real?" Like, and that was really like that. I was really upset
Yeah.
when it came
Yeah.
to that. But
Yeah.
I will have to say that I have had a lot of support along the way.
Mhm.
But what I did notice, and a story that I did quickly want to share was I have a daughter. She's 17
Mhm.
now. Actually, her birthday is in 2 days. She'll be 17.
Okay. Mhm.
And she has actually experienced not a lot of support when it comes to certain things that she's wanted to do in her life. And I
Yeah.
noticed that for her, I've been a very big supporter of her, but
Mhm.
how other family members sometimes are not the best support when it
Oh,
comes to things
yeah.
that you want to do, particularly very close family members. And
Mhm.
how I noticed um, how much support means to other people and how much support I've provided for her versus other people who kind of surprised, kind of not surprised, but I think a lot of it is cultural, is in a
Yeah.
lot of the ways that we're brought up. So that was another thing that kind of stood out to me that I was started coming to top of mind when I was reading your book.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it was just one thing after the next. And as you know, from reading the book, I did not have that support system
Mhm.
in my relationship. Initially, yes, but in my relationship, and I had some family things that happened that did not offer me that support. Although I have a very supportive mom, nowadays, but and early on in my life,
Yeah.
so I just she built me up initially, so I was able to take that and run with it, and that's why I kept getting up. I
Hmm.
think it's hard if children don't get that early on
Hmm.
to um, get it later.
Yeah.
That's why there's a lot of people running around with, confidence issues, self-esteem issues. It's just hard to
Yeah.
learn that later on. And
Yeah.
people say, "Oh, you don't have kids, you don't understand." Well, some things are just common sense and logical, though.
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. So, um, what about a time that you had where your morals and your values were questioned?
Mm.
How did you navigate that? Have you ever been in a situation where you're like, "Ooh, that's not right, but I gotta do it anyway," kind of thing?
Um, in that sense, in that sense, it, a lot of my healthcare career was
Mhm.
exactly that. Doing a
Mm,
lot of things, and this is actually a lot of what I teach my students.
okay.
That they're going to come into situations where you might have your values, but there's some other things going on that you need to consider.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so much of my healthcare career was all of that. Every day I went to work, and there did come a point and why I stepped away from the bedside and why I teach now and why I have my telehealth practice and whatnot is because I couldn't go along with it anymore. A lot of
Mhm.
the things that I was
Yeah.
seeing, a lot of the things that I was having to do. Um,
Mhm.
and it was all around, how we're treating patients, what we're doing to them,
Mhm.
just all of that. And those are really how my personal values were being tested every day.
Yes.
And having to keep my mouth shut and not saying what people really
Mhm.
needed to hear, what they needed to hear, but what I should say because hospital image, this, I don't
Yeah.
want to get fired and all of
Uh-huh.
that.
Yeah.
And I was like, that weighed on me so badly
Mm,
after so
I'm
many
sure it
years.
did.
And
Yeah.
I said, I just
Mhm.
have to stop. I can't with
Yeah.
this anymore. So that was probably the biggest thing that I was thinking about was
Mhm.
was all of that when it came to like, well, I did it because I sort of had to do it, but then after a point, I
Mhm.
said, I got a choice, and I don't have to do that anymore.
Mhm. Yeah. So specifically, thinking about situations in the book where there was one thing after the next, and
Hmm.
the one thing that happened initially did not you can't even absorb that before something else is happening.
Hmm.
And you know this is one of the reasons why us women, we're taught to just like tuck it, keep it moving, tuck it away, keep it moving, and then before you know it, you got like 100 things tucked away
Hmm.
because we don't have time to have pity parties and get ran down where we can't function. We don't have those luxuries like our counterparts.
Hmm.
Um, and it's always been like that. What type of struggle have you had in your life that you would like to share with us that is similar to something, that happened in the book to myself?
Um, I don't know if there was anything exactly similar
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
happened, but when it comes to, when he was locked away and I'm not going to see him for years and years and years, and how awful, like crushing of a
Mhm.
feeling, emptiness,
Mhm.
loneliness. But then
Yeah.
still having to go on with your life, but still having to do all the things.
Mhm.
When I was in school, when I was getting my LPN way back, my dad had a sudden heart attack and a blood clot
Mhm.
to his brain and ended up being
Oh
on
my
life
gosh.
support. And then we had to
Mhm.
take him off of life support. And I'm like in
Mhm.
my very early 20s, in
Mhm.
school full time, working. I only had two kids back then, very small. And then
Mhm.
here goes my dad dies right when I start my LPN program. I had just started a couple months into it. And
Mhm.
again, another situation where I could have taken a break. I could have quit. Everybody would have understood. Everybody
Yeah,
would have been
yeah.
like, oh, we know. But I didn't. And I kept going. We did
There's the
what we
key
had to
word.
do.
You kept.
Yep.
I like
And I
that.
kept on going. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
kept on
Mhm.
going. Um,
Yeah.
and it did catch up with me though, girl. It did catch up with me because
Of
I
course.
started having all kinds of
It
issues,
always
had to go
does.
on medication.
Yeah.
And even
Mhm.
through that, listen, even through that, I still kept going. I still kept going. And eventually I was able to get off of all the medications and I took time
Mhm.
to grieve. That was my biggest thing, was I didn't take time to grieve. And looking back, I actually didn't even figure that out until like years later, that I
Yeah.
didn't grieve. I didn't take time to grieve, and that's why I
That's
just bottled it up, just like you said. I bottled it up. I
mhm.
kept going, did what I had to do, and and it was on me. My husband didn't really affect him as much. Me,
Of
yes,
course.
my dad and my career and all the things. I'm like, I got to do this for me, for my kids, for my family, for my dad. I had to keep going, and
Yeah.
it really did catch up with me, and it was really hard.
Yeah. 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 You know, I look back at some of the things that I've been through and I don't even know how I did it. No, I do know how I did. I know now, but
Yeah,
it's like, how did you even do it? What made you keep going?
yeah.
What is it? So Let me ask you, okay, with all these trials and tribulations that you've had in your life,
Mm,
okay,
mm.
whether it's with school, with your family, with your children, what would you have done differently? How would you have rewritten that narrative? Is there anything that you see that you would have said, "Oh, I shouldn't have done that," or um, you
Hmm.
or I was a bad wife, or what happened in your life that you'd like to share with us?
You know what? Looking back, I
Mhm.
I really don't think I'd do anything differently. I don't think I would
Okay.
do anything differently.
Hmm.
And I don't. I really don't
Yeah.
think I'd go back and
Yeah.
change any of it.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
I'm happy where I'm at now in my life, and I know
Hmm.
I wouldn't be here where I am right now
Oh,
if
of course,
any of that stuff
yeah.
wouldn't have happened to me. So
Yeah.
I don't think I would have changed any of the things.
Hmm. So, is there a specific moment or time in the book where you, um, not that you actually went through that situation, but you were just like, wow, that's amazing, or um, how did she do that, or she shouldn't have done that, or something to that effect. You know what I'm trying to get, what
There
I'm
was
getting
a
at?
bunch of she shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, well, let's talk about some of those things.
Oh my gosh, it was so funny. I do have to say though, my favorite part of the book was the popcorn story. That was my
I
favorite.
was just thinking about the popcorn story. Oh my god.
That
Okay.
was my favorite part. I was like, "What?"
I didn't come up with
Oh,
that.
it was so funny. Oh my God, I was dying when I was reading that part. The popcorn part was so funny. But like when you were
Could you see
shoplifting,
yourself doing that?
what was that? Oh, could I see myself for my
Yeah,
man? Yeah, probably. Yes.
yeah,
I'd be like,
yeah, yeah,
okay.
yeah. Okay, let's share with the audience here exactly what we're talking about. So, at one particular time, my significant other was incarcerated.
Mhm,
And he asked me to bring him some marijuana in to put it in like these little plastic bags and then put it inside of white balloons. And then you have to bring those white balloons in with you. You when you go to visit someone, you walk in and they have to pat you down. You go through a metal detector and all these things. So you have to conceal them in
mhm,
order for them not to find them, to get into the visiting room and then go buy popcorn at the vending machine, pop it, and then somehow get those balloons into that popcorn so he can then eat it and swallow it. I don't even want to know how he got it out. I mean, he never actually told me the details, but we can
Yeah.
fill in the blank. But the question is, would you have done that? And just like she just said, for her man, she would have done
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So I look back on that and I'm like, what was I thinking about? Oh my God, I could have got in
Yes.
trouble. Why did I do that? And I'm going to answer that question. I don't think that I was thinking. Not
Mm,
like I'm thinking now. I mean, you're talking
right.
about years later.
Yeah.
Of course not. But, when I was in that headspace the whole time that he was away, it's kind of like you're a zombie and you're just going through the motions
Mhm,
and you think you're functioning, but you're not really functioning.
mhm.
Has it ever happened to you where you think that you're functioning and then later on you'd be like, oh, I was just going through the motions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
There were a lot of
Probably
times.
in school, probably in college. I'm sure. I know I did.
Oh,
And he was when he was gone, I was in college. Can you imagine?
yeah.
In college, and you got to go through this, and just all the mental that goes with that, and you already got stuff. It was just so hard. Oh my gosh.
Mhm.
No, I wouldn't want to do that over again. No. Some of the things, yes, but that, no.
Yeah,
So,
that part, and then all the shoplifting part where you kept shoplifting and getting caught, and the guy and your lawyer was like, "You are not good at this. Stop."
you
It's
need to
like,
find something else to do.
please go do something else.
Find another profession. Yeah, that was early on in my life,
Mhm.
and no, I can't remember how old I was, but we didn't have, and I tried to get things the best way I knew how because of my cousins and everybody I was hanging around, and I found out that that wasn't for me, and did
Mhm.
away with that life. I never liked it. I never said, "Ooh, I want to do this," kind of thing. So, yeah, that
Mhm.
was one of those things that I would redo, definitely.
Yeah.
Um, Anything else? What about the time that I extended the olive branch to him when I went to
Mhm.
Dominican Republic on a Harry Carey mission for two
Yeah.
months?
Yeah. I just was thinking like how brave that was of you.
That's
Um,
yeah, that's putting it
and you know what
lightly,
I'll
but
say?
yeah.
How like really what else I loved was the time you spent with his family before
Yeah.
you and how still closely connected you were to them. I thought that was
Mhm.
beautiful. And I think a lot of what also touched me throughout your book was like all the different friendships that you have with
Mhm.
people
Yeah.
and how much you love them and care about that. Like that
Yeah.
really stood out to me a lot. And then that part where you went to go see his family before you went up there, and even with all the drama and not seeing him and all the things, his family was still there for you, and I loved that. And yeah, and then how brave I was like, this girl's going to the Dominican Republic, like she don't know what's going on, and she about to go over there to get her stuff. Like, okay,
My
and
stuff
yeah,
that had been there for a couple years or so, it's like,
yeah,
okay. But I had
yeah,
to extend the olive branch one last time just
mhm,
because I don't want to get old and be like, oh, I should have did this, I should have did that kind of thing. So I
mhm,
did that, and I told myself before I left, I said, if he does not grab onto it, then just get my things and go back home.
mhm,
You know. And I went there under duress also, because as you know, I had my own situation
yeah,
and I was on probation at the time. So I went there under duress.
mhm,
I was rebuilding myself, my business, um, my, inner, my trying to rebuild me.
mhm,
And here again to him, the olive branch.
yeah,
And he slammed the door in my face.
mm,
Can
yeah.
you relate to that at all?
Yeah, that's like the risk you take when you are like I'm very much like that too. I'm very like open and very trusting. And like I
Mhm,
did relate a lot to what you had mentioned like when you were younger, like very naive to things when you're younger
mhm,
and how you
mhm,
grew up very similar. I didn't go to Catholic school, but my,
mhm,
it was church all the time. Go to Bible school, go to
mhm.
this. So very
Yeah.
religious upbringing and very sheltered. My parents kept me on lockdown a lot. Not that I was a bad kid or anything, but like just you're
Yeah,
you're
that's
a
yeah.
little
Yeah.
Latina girl, like you're gonna be, in the house and not going nowhere and all of that. So that's how I was raised. So very sheltered from a lot of things. And even though I did go to public school, so I saw a lot, that
Mhm,
was not really my experience once I got home. I was not like hanging out with these people. Um,
mhm,
so so I knew a little bit, but I was very much sheltered from all of that. And when
mhm,
I went away to college, it was like, holy shit, like here's the world. And it was
mhm,
so much for me. But, um, I've had people, treat me badly or do things to me. I can't think of any specific incidences right now, but,
mhm,
I'm that has happened to me because I am very trusting and very nice. And I give people the
yeah,
benefit of the doubt a little too much. And sometimes
mhm,
it comes back to bite me, but I'm just like, that's me. And I can't really, that's who I am. So,
mhm,
that's kind of been my experiences when it comes to that. But
mhm,
it was nice to read it through your eyes, through your story, all the
mhm,
different things that you had experienced when it came to that. And again, I related so much with that and how all the different relationships that you kept and how you did keep trying to reach out to people
mhm.
and at least attempt, make that
Yeah,
extension to them was really nice.
yeah. Do you do you okay, I've had people say, "You wrote this book about why did you write about me in this book?" And I
Mm,
said, "Well, where would you get that from? This book is about me and my relationship."
Mhm.
Can you see anywhere in this book where someone would think that it's about them?
Where it would be about me
About
in the book
anybody else but me and him?
about
Do you see anything in this book about it's about
oh,
anyone else?
well, yeah, because like you're reading it and it's you are creating like images in your mind. And I think there were some things like I was thinking about the popcorn scene. That's
Uh-huh.
all I could keep thinking about. And I was like, would I do that? Because my
Yeah.
husband's in law enforcement. He used to work in the jail. And I was like, oh
And
my
just picture
God.
all of the guards being there
Yeah.
in the room
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Oh my
So
gosh, I
I
can't even.
totally,
I get scared thinking about it now.
yeah. Yeah. But I can totally see that because people are going to take different experiences. And even the story that you shared about your cousin throwing you down the stairs. Um,
Mm.
I've never had very good relationships with any of my cousins, even though we were like forced to all hang out together. I never had any good
Yeah.
relationships with any of them. And I could have
Mhm.
totally, not that that happened to me, but I could totally have seen that situation happen to me because of the relationships um, that we had. And that part really
Yeah, it
stood
was
out.
16 stairs. He pushed me down
Yeah,
from the top, and I rolled all the way down.
it's crazy.
Down to the bottom. Yes.
Hmm.
Ugh. So what I'm asking is, there's one person in particular that has said to me, "Why did you write a book about me?" And I said, "What are
Mm-hmm.
you talking about? This is about me and my relationship." So you didn't get that from the book that I'm writing about anyone else. Did you feel that, or did you feel like it was just me and my relationship?
I felt like it was you. And because I've just recently got to meet you
Yeah.
and got to know you.
Uh-huh.
So to know all this backstory about you, and I know every time we've kind of
'Cause
visited,
isn't it
we've
good to
talked.
be transparent?
Yeah, yeah.
It's empowering. It
Yeah,
empowers people to be
it
when you're
it
transparent,
surely
especially
does.
women. Yeah.
It surely does. And it's like we all have all this background to us to where
Mhm.
we are now. And I just found it so fascinating to read all of that you've experienced and that like I said, we've talked about it here and there. Like I've heard little bits and
Mhm.
stories, but I've never
Yeah.
like read or known the entire story from
Mhm.
beginning to where you are now. And how I know you now, the woman that I know you now, um
Do you feel like you
it,
know me?
I feel like I know you better.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I know you much better now. And one of the
Right.
questions that I was going to ask you was
Mhm.
keeping in mind that now I know all of this
Uh-huh.
backstory about you to be the woman that you are now, to have the business that you have now,
Mhm.
and I know that you are doing a lot of work around mindset and like I have a coach, you've got a coach, and how important that
Mhm.
is with working through things that, we've been programmed to,
Mhm.
be growing up. You are at such a place in your life now. And would you ever have imagined that this is who you would be now based on all those experiences that you've had?
No, but let me tell you this before we wrap up.
Yeah.
I the keeping that I have had through my life, that's why I named
Mhm.
this book Kept Woman.
Mhm.
Every situation that I went through, it was ordained. And I consider myself a very anointed person.
Mm.
I was an angel to so many, and I was put in certain situations to be there for those individuals.
Mhm.
Okay? So I'm going to
Mhm.
leave you with that.
Okay.
Sit with that.
I like that. I
And
like that.
we can have a more of a discussion about that.
I
But
do.
you
I like
understand where I'm coming from, though, right?
I absolutely do. I do.
Okay. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you. I'm glad I got to read your book, and I'm even more honored that I've gotten to know you so well.
Great. Talk to you soon.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye bye.